JD's and Letterman, we asked 1 million of you guys here on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, which gun do you regret the most? The gun that you absolutely have despised the most, you would never buy again. you guys are full of hate, and I'm here for it. I love it. This is fun. This is good information. People having issues with guns that they just would never buy again and they absolutely regret. We need to know that. I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting this many people to comment on this, but I'm glad it's got a little viral and we get to know. So we're gonna read through all of these comments here, and you and me, we're just gonna talk about it. Drop in the comments and tell me, which gun do you most regret? I wanna know. I wanna know more research, people who maybe not have seen these posts. Tell me which guns that you just regret and that were the biggest piles of crap. And if there's somebody in the comments who's completely wrong, tell them. Let them know. I mean, hey, it's really hard to change people's minds on the internet, but today might be your day, King. So, without further ado, guys, let's just dive into it here. Now, this video has been brought to you guys by AIM Surplus. This is a local mom and pop kind of shop next to me with a huge, just nationwide presence. They get the stuff that absolutely nobody else can. Awesome customer service and super knowledgeable dudes. You can't beat it. Huge shout out to those guys. So let's talk about hate. Now, first thing that comes up is this one just is like, it's pretty funny. The effing SIG Spear LT. Here's the thing. I knew there was going to be a lot of SIG hate, and there is a lot of SIG hate. So, Bo, the effing SIG Spear LT, it has adjustable gas block, but its two settings are overgassed and immersive gas chamber simulator. Like, it's funny because it's true. I've had a Virtus and I've had a Spear. That was my exact experience. It was like the piston settings were like overgassed and overgassed. Overall, terrible experience. Thanks, Bo. Laughing Octopus says, Noveske and Q, they can both... Oof. That's a lot of hate for Noveske and Q. And Hollow Sun anything. Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of really bad experiences with Hollow Sun. And there's also just as many people who say like they're the best thing since sliced cheese. Dovaris. This thing overheated to the point you couldn't hold it comfortably after 2 to 3 mags. That right there is the alien. I think Grand Thumb just did a video on this gun. I shot one of these things like 3 years ago. And I'm not kidding. This dude is exactly right. After 1 mag, if you ride your thumb on the actual frame right there, that's exactly in line with the barrel. Yeah, you're putting your thumb like right next to a glowing hot barrel. So after 2 to 3 mags, like it's literally miserable to shoot. I found the exact same experience. I thought that's funny. IWI Caramel is the biggest piece of garbage Scar Cope ever made. Probably wouldn't want to upset those people. Joe Jensen, the B&T TP9 trigger was absolutely dog crap. It's kind of funny. Yeah, Joe, I 100% agree with you. I did a video with VBD Retail, Vance DeSanta, and he brought that gun up there. I'm not gonna lie. If you could get like a Geisley SSAE trigger for this gun, I think it could be one of the funnest guns of all time. But as it sits, it's totally miserable. Like it just needs to be full auto or semi-auto with a better trigger. The trigger pull on that thing is just like a gritty, like 8-pound, super long travel. And then the reset is also super bad. So like a little sub gun, you kind of want to just shoot really fast and just, you can't really do it with this. Like I can shoot any AR-15 faster. I can shoot this sub gun on semi-auto. So it's, yeah, I get that. I get that, Joe. Joe Ad. One of my first ARs was a PSA. I think we all know about that choice. Yeah, the PSA is probably going to be on here a lot, but let's continue. SIG MCX 300 Blackout, because if I wanted a 47-pound piston gun, I would have bought a 240 Bravo. Luke Sebson, yeah, know this guy, super cool dude. Yeah, he's right. SIG MCX 300 Blackout is a very heavy gun. Most piston guns are just going to weigh a lot more. There's a few of them out there, but as a whole, like, there's just no way to get around a giant piston system versus a little itty bitty gas tube. Caleb Inman, Palmetto State Armory, KS47. Yeah, I've heard a lot of bad stuff about the Palmetto State Armory AK series. I've never owned one, so I can't say personally, but I have heard and seen a lot of people talk a lot of crap about the PSA AK lineup. Caleb says the mags would over-insert if you rested it on a bench or on the ground, making the bolt carrier group get hung up on the feed lips. Only mags that wouldn't were Tapco thick boys. Arturo, Kriss Vector CRB. Now, if we just look at this gun, like, that looks like regret. Like, that looks like a gun of regret. I feel like you go into the gun store and you're like, give me the weirdest gun that you've got. And the counter jockey's just like, and he pulls out this, and you get home and you shoot it. And like, well, you have an experience here. Like Arturo. The suppressor sprout is unbalanced. It's more of a range toy. Shoots weird. Trigger is awful and likes to have failure to feed. Yeah, that sounds like every Vector I've ever heard. Failures to feed, terrible trigger. Cole, the Aero M5308, only have 500 beans into it, but man, Aero sucks. I think T-Rex Arms, I think that's who did it. Did like a bunch of rounds on an Aero, and I think they had a pretty good experience with it, but Cole has not had a good experience with that. It is kind of interesting that influencers almost always and routinely get the best versions and like the best that's ever been designed of really cheap guns that most people don't have good luck with. Anyways. Anything Noveske, different company from 10 years ago, and not in a good way. I hear this a lot. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with Noveske, but I have heard this quite a bit that when John Noveske was there, I think this is the original founder of that, people really, really liked their stuff, made some really good stuff. And I've still heard they make really good stuff, but apparently the people don't like them and have some bad experiences with them. I'm not too sure. Just not a ton of experience on my end with Noveske. Anthony, first 1911. Was a 4-inch stainless Kimber. I don't even have to read it anymore. Like, we know where this is going. Kimber used to make, like, I'm not kidding, top tier, phenomenal 1911. Kimber was regarded as an incredible 1911 manufacturer and a bunch of really good gunsmiths, but sometime in the 2000s, 2010s, they really, they went south, and they went south fast. And I think a lot of the Kimber hate comes from that. Now, I know they've been doing some really good rebranding stuff with their new 2011 and stuff. I'd like to get my hands on one of those, actually. Yeah, a lot of people have had some serious issues with their 1911s. Joshua says, the Spaz 12. What a piece of garbage. Only reason I regret selling it 20 years ago is that some idiot would pay 3 times as much for it now. Josh, I think you're right about the people paying more for it, because last time I seen one of these, they were going for like $1 gazillion. I have heard people say that it's probably one of the worst shotguns of all time. And it's a really kind of interesting one. I don't think really America would care much about it at all if it wasn't for Jurassic Park. SIG P320. This is very interesting. So Marooned Gun Memes makes these funny Instagram page. No reason why they have the reputation they do. And I agree with that 1000%. I got the Mark 25, which is the SIG P320 for the Navy SEAL variant. And in no way, shape, or form would I ever pick that gun over a Beretta M9 and HK USP9. I think those guns do it way better with smoother shooting, a little bit lower bore axe, especially with the Beretta. Yeah, I did not like my 226. I couldn't get the gun running very fast. I think it was just kind of blocky and clanky and had a lot of upward muzzle flip in the sense of just, I think it has a really high bore axis. So yeah, that's the first one specific to the 226, and I agree with that. That's well said. Ooh, more SIG hate. Andrew says, the SIG Rattler. I just wish I would have used the beans on something else. I don't like the proprietary SIG system either. LWRC SMG 45. Now, I have heard a lot of bad things about these guys here. LWRC makes some really, really good ARs, but I've heard some terrible stuff about the SMG 45. It was awesome until it wasn't, Kriss says. Best looking gun on the planet. Subjective. And then the bolt broke. Unfortunate. After its fifth return to LWRC, it's got its own empty shell holder as well. So has that going for it. Spencer Prooch, the Q Fix. Interesting. I haven't seen much Q hate on here. Absolutely horrid experience. Bought a 6.5 Creedmoor, went to go shoot it, and light primer strikes every single round I put in it, even loading the same round multiple times. I looked it up and it seems to be a recall for this exact issue. Put in my serial number to get told mine isn't covered under that recall. So I asked about a fix for it, and they said, I don't know, find an ammo it likes and just run that. He goes on to scream at me. Kinda hard to find an ammo it likes when it won't shoot. On top of this, the bolt was not smooth at all. Could not remove the bolt with the stock out or folded. It had to be halfway in between. It also utilized the literally best trigger ever made, or whatever they call it. I've never filled a trigger with so much slop and play in my life. Overall, 0 out of 10 experience. Spencer is not happy with his Q Fix, guys. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying he's wrong. I've just never heard much Q Fix hate, but also I don't know a ton of people with them, or I mean, really, people who have like Q guns and that shoot them a lot. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Barry McOxen. You almost had me. Almost had me, bro. After my PSA Saber, I'll never buy another PSA AR-15. I'll spend more money and have the reliability. Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. Barry, if that is your real name, we all know it's not, but you almost had me, bro. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of hate on PSA in these comments here. Here's an interesting one we don't get too often. HK P320 LEM 9mm. I think I got a lemon. Wasn't anywhere near as accurate as my USPs were. My P2000 shot way better, hated the trigger, even had it cut for an optic and still hated it. Sold it. Joshua is not happy with his HK P30. I don't think I've ever fired or even handled a P30, so I can't say. Next, I'm in the Army. SIG has got to GTFO. A lot of people in the military, a lot of people on the civilian side do not like SIG Sauer, if you can tell. John says, any AK that's American made. I feel like that's just like a reoccurring trend in a lot of these comments that if it's made in America and it's an AK-47, like pretty much everybody hates on it. I think there's only one. It's like the fuller ones. I'm not super well versed in AKs. I think it's a kind of a general consensus that if you aren't getting like a high-end custom build or somebody brought in a parts kit to build out, if it's American made, it's probably no good. The PSA 12.5-inch 105 545 clone of an actual AK 105 is the biggest hunk of crap I ever made. Couldn't even make it through a full mag before I had multiple failures. My Russian and Bulgy, that is a Bulgarian 545 guns, have never had a single malfunction. Of course, SIG P320, high bore axis, felt cheap, trigger felt like cream corn. Love that, cream corn. It reminds me of The Longest Yard, Adam Sandler movie. He's like, can of corn, or Diet Coke while he's passing out. Anyways, glad he dumped it before it made me leak. That means the gun NDs into your leg and after you put it in your holster. Taylor Pickerel. Taylor Pickerel is like a super high-end gunsmith. He does a lot of machine gun things, NFA things, got a ton of tanks. He says the minigun, the MG42, SDG44, Arsenal Strike 1, and Browning high powers. I'm not gonna lie, I have only ever shot one of these guns like at a machine gun shoot or something like that when we were talking about the minigun and the MG42, and I've never shot an STG44, but he's got like literally everything, and he's got like a Guerrillian tanks. It's got a really cool business, does a ton of like super high-end gunsmithing on a lot of like NFA things. Jake Smith, I had a Ruger American in 308 that launched the firing pin into my cheek after firing that Ruger was mega crappy about trying to fix. Interesting. I've never heard a bad thing about Ruger customer service, but I have heard bad things about a lot of Rugers. I think they're like the #1 arms manufacturer in the United States. Like they make hundreds of thousands of guns annually. It's kind of crazy. I think maybe even 1 million. I'm not too sure. But yeah, they make a lot of guns. They're bound to have some issues. But yeah, poor Jake, was just about impaled by firing pin. Ty says the Mac 9DS. So that's the Mac. I actually did a video on this gun, the 2011, with the work and money I put into getting it to run right. I could have just bought a Platypus or a Bull Armory, and if I sold it, I wouldn't get my money back out of it. Works good now, but I had to put a lot of money and work into it to get it to run. It's kind of funny because I had the exact same experience with this. So I had such a great experience with my TSOS 45 Raider. Like that gun was flawless. It gave me 0 issues, ran awesome, super fun gun. My two 2011s that I have from TSOS and Mac, it's the same import company, SDS. I'm not too sure there's really any real difference besides the name. I could be wrong though. Yeah, I had a ton of issues with mine. They were gigantic hunks of junk. It seems to me like it's a coin toss with this company if you get a good one or you get a bad one. Yeah, a lot of TSOS and Mac hate on here. Ross says, any SIG piston rifle? Yeah, we've getting a lot of that. Enzo says, PSA Jackal. A lot of PSA hate. Nick says, anything made by Aero. You know, it's funny because they came out really strong, I feel like 2018 to 2020. They had some really good reputation built up. They had some really good products at a very affordable price, which everybody loves. Like, who doesn't love a good quality product at an affordable price? But it seems like since then, the opinion of Aero has definitely changed. I find that very interesting because there's a lot of Aero hate in here. BCM Upper, that's Bravo Company Manufacturing. Huge gas ports in mine came with the barrel misaligned. They did fix it though. I do know, and I have heard from a lot of people that BCM is great with their warranty, great customer service as well. I don't really hear about too many issues from BCM, which I find interesting, but again, every single company is going to have a little hiccup here and there. Staccato P. This is the first Staccato one I've seen. Couldn't get through a mag with any ammo. Told me to buy different springs. Yeah, that's super unfortunate. I hate that for you that the Staccato didn't work. It is true. 2011s, especially like a semi hand fit 2011, like a Staccato. Yes, 1911s and 2011s, they do need to have springs usually tuned to the platform. Usually they're fine out of the box, but sometimes, well, a lot of times they're just a little oversprung. So yeah, that is true. Unfortunately, you do got to get some springs for that, but they're usually cheap, 10, 12 bucks. Just buy a few of them. See which ones run. This is going to get me flamed. I hated my USP 45, most inaccurate pistol I've ever dropped a band on. That's interesting because I haven't heard a ton of USP hate. I think the USP is a really cool gun. I really love the gun, and I think it's mostly because I played Metal Gear as a kid, and I love the SOCOM USP style. I think it's just such an aesthetic pistol. I don't think they're like necessarily the best shooting pistols in the world, but I think they're a ton of fun. They got that nostalgia look to them. Yeah. Unfortunately, very bad instance with the USP 45. Anything made by PSA, including ammo. Also, anything made by Noveske. Where did the Noveske hate pop up? I understand the PSA, but the Noveske stuff, that's wild. PSA, and any belt-fed machine gun converted to semi. Now that I can get on board with. I think if you're going to have a belt-fed, yes, it is just best utilized if it does the, I think a semi-auto version of that. I guess it can sustain maybe a longer string of fire, but it's like 20, 25 pounds for like a 240 Bravo loaded and stuff. So I can get that. CZ, on the basis that they are aiding and destroying guns for politics. Yeah, they made a really bad move up in Canada. I think they just like assisted the government or something in destroying some weapons. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not super well versed in that, but I did hear about that, and there was a lot of hate for CZ for that. Anything from PSA. Yeah, that's pretty common feature here. Tommy built T7. 1 year later, and mine still doesn't run. This is the MP7 clone, so the HK MP7 clone. I think he did like a big pre-order or like a release of just like a certain amount of pistols, and like I think the rollout went pretty bad. I think a lot of people had some serious issues with them. They just simply couldn't get them to run. MCX, God, there's so much SIG hate. I had no idea people hated Sig Sauer this much. Like, I've never been a fan really of many of their products. Really any of them, but I don't hate them, but man, a lot of people had a lot of bad experiences from that. So yeah, that's a lot of hate, boys. That is a tremendous amount of hate, and I'm here for it. I love it. Vent to me, vent to the people. This is good. People sharing their opinions and their bad experiences that they're having with these firearms. That's good. We love that. And here's the thing. This is kind of important because let's be real. We need to let people know if you're having issues with these firearms, because whether they are $500, $1,000, $5,000, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on it. If it's a piece of junk, we need to be known. It needs to be known and let known to the people here. And that's what this whole thing's about. So as promised, I told you I would give you a few of my greatest regrets in gun purchasing. Starting at number one, it has to be probably the PSA M110K1. It's a gun that I was just so excited for. I think they do a knockout job on like a lot of their clones, and they get very, very affordable prices, very appealing prices. But really, honestly, any of the sabers, I've had an issue with every single one of my sabers. I had the M110 clone. I had the HK clone, which is a kind of like the M110A1 kind of clone. And then I had the M110K1 clone. Every single one of them had issues with that. So I definitely regret that one. I would say, honestly, the next one was probably the SIG P320. Yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of that gun. A lot of people love that thing. They're like, oh, it's SIG hammer guns are the best. This, you have to get one. So I got one. I was going to do a video on it, but I hated it so much that I was like, I can't even make this thing interesting. Like, nobody's going to watch this because I'm just going to like talk crap about it. So didn't even do a video on that one. And then last but not least, so this one's kind of funny. It is the namesake of the channel, the Knight's Armament M110. And here's the reason why. This gun is awesome. Like, this is easily my most favorite gun I own. It sounds strange to say like, oh, this is my favorite gun, but I regret it. Let me get to the point. So like, this gun's awesome. It is fantastic. It is so much fun. They cost $30,000. Like, that's what those guns cost. And that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, that's a lot of money. So like, I understand you're buying a like kind of almost a historical item, very, very, very low production count on the actual civilian market. But hey, it was rolled M110. It was very cool. It's the namesake of the channel. So like, I can't say I totally regret it. It was very expensive, and was it worth $30,000? Absolutely not. I think it is a phenomenal $6,000 rifle, $5,000 rifle, fully kitted out with a can and everything on it. But yeah, so guys, yeah, we have a wrap on that. Like I said in the beginning, do me a favor. Tell me which guns that you absolutely most despise that you have owned. Tell me which guns you absolutely regret. And then do me a favor on top of that. Find somebody who you disagree with and tell them why they're wrong. I want to see the comments. It's really hard to change people's mind on the internet, but hey, today might be your day, King. So, guys, as always, run your gun, not your mouth. Except today, run your mouth in the comments. We'll see you later.